Good morning. We're back in the shop this morning, but we're not going to be doing any woodwork this morning for the video. It's just my place to get out where it's quiet. I say quiet. There's a high-pitched sound in this when I record out here that's the wildlife, the bugs and crickets and things like that in these fence rows. And this metal trailer picks it all up, and the camera picks it up. So I hope you can ignore that. Today I want to kind of go back to the beginning, at least my beginning. 1946, the World War had ended. A lot of soldiers coming home, starting families, building houses, a lot of activity. The economy was in pretty bad shape. There were folk that were struggling. In February of 1946, my dad and mom got married. Dad was just a few days from being 25. Mom was 17, nearly 18. Dad's family has been in this country for a long time. There's grave markers for several generations of the Knowles. The Knoll name is not widely known as names like Smith and Jones and things of that nature. But our family has spread literally around the world. Dad was a family of 14. There were 7 boys and 7 girls. Dad was the third child. He was the oldest of the boys. And they're all gone now except for 2. There's Aunt Martha and Uncle Edward. The last I heard here lately are the only 2 left. And Mom's family was out of Virginia, and her dad died when she was 13. He was from a family of blacksmiths. He was blind from working hot forges without any kind of eye protection. Played a fiddle. Never heard him, obviously. But Mom was a family of, her family was all girls. There was, I think there was 5 or 6, and I should have thought about that before I started this, and so I'd know, but I didn't. But anyway, February 1946, Mom and Dad got married. That was on the February the 2nd, Groundhog's Day. And 9 months and 1 day later, Steve Knoll showed up. Grew up moving around. Dad was a mover. The family that he came from were poor in the beginning, and everybody worked hard, and some of them succeeded quite well and some moderately. And we moved around quite a bit until I was probably 12 or 14 years old. And I grew up on a farm, grew up behind a pair of mules for the most part. When I was, I'd say 4 or 5, we lived in a little homemade house. It was not much more than a corn crib that Dad had put together because the old log house had got too bad to live in, and they'd torn it down. And I was 7, almost 8. He sold that place to his brother. And by the way, before he sold it, we had a little mule and a Jersey cow and raised a big garden, so we ate well. And when I was just fixing to turn 8, Dad bought a farm on the other side of the county. This is Casey County, Kentucky. And bought 10 milk cows, a pair of big mules, and we had a stock dog and hogs and chickens and all that sort of thing. And of course, I'm the oldest of 9, and my second to me was a baby that died when he was 2 months old. And then there were 8 of us living, and now there's 2 gone. There's still 4 sisters and 2 brothers. And I was about 14. And of course, I'd been raised in a family that went to church all the time. And I knew what being a sinner was, and I knew that I wasn't a saint. But my mama had convinced me I was a good boy. And so up until that time, I didn't really need anything more than that. And of course, I had her fooled, and I wasn't fooled. I knew I wasn't really a good boy. But when I was 14, there was an old couple came to the house and asked if me and my brother could go to church. They was having a revival meeting in a church. It was a meeting in an old 2-room country school that was no longer in use. And we went, and the Lord got a hold of my heart. And I went home that night and got down on my bed and got saved. And changed my life, obviously. But we were out of church for a while. And you don't really grow in the Lord if you don't have others around you to help. And so I was just kind of stagnant Christian for a long time. And then about end of high school days, of course, I didn't graduate high school. I was a dropout. But Dolly and I started dating, and she was still a senior just before she graduated. And I started going to church with her. And I started growing somewhat. And the Lord called me to preach. And I won't go into the details right now. Maybe some other day we'll tell that story. Went to Michigan, went to Bible college, and took 4 years and a whole lot of work at General Motors and a bunch of kids. We wound up with 4 children and went to Eastern Kentucky and started the ministry. And from there, that's another long story that we won't get into right now. But the whole purpose of this series is to show the hand of God in our life. You see, our life, my wife and I, our life has been God, the church, and the people of God. And of course, I've worked public work just about all my life while we were doing ministry. And but there's been a lot of stories. We did a lot of travel, and those stories hopefully we'll get to tell some of them here. Over the years, we tell a few of those stories, and people would say, you ought to write a book about those things. And I said, nah, I don't think anybody'd want to read it. What I was really saying is, I don't think I can write it. And I actually, in the last couple of years, I sat down a couple of times at the computer and thought, well, I'll see if I can put some of it down. And I get about a paragraph. One time I got a whole page, I think. And I said, you know what? I can't do this. And so I got to thinking about it, and I decided I've watched a lot of YouTube since I'm medically retired. And I said, what if, and I asked some other folk about it, I said, what if I started telling a few of our stories for the grandkids and the great-grandkids and anybody else that wants to maybe interested. And if you're somebody that come across this video and you're not a family member or don't know us, and if you want to stick around, you're welcome. Just be forewarned. Now, if you don't want to hear about God, then maybe you ought to just drift on. Jesus one time was talking about his body and his blood being a sacrifice, and the people who were listening to Jesus said, oh, this is a hard saying. And they went away, all except the disciples. And Jesus made a strange statement. He turned to them and he said, would ye also go away? You know, you have the choice. You can pay attention, you can listen, you can believe, or you can walk away. I don't want to see you do that. Nobody that's a Christian wants to see anybody else go to hell. But by the way, there is only 2 places, and God set it up that way. And liking it or not don't make any difference because we can't change it. God made the plan and put it in motion, and here we are. And I settled that many, many years ago. Have been no regrets whatsoever. My only regret is I haven't done more to try to help others come to know Christ and to help those who already do that have struggled from time to time and maybe a little weak. So anyway, This is Steve. This is my wood shop. This is my place to get by myself and do a little work, or not. Sometimes just sit out here and talk to the Lord a little bit, meditate, think about things, and hope you get something from it. If you don't, maybe the next time. But this is Steve, and this is Story Time, and maybe the next time we'll come back and see you again. Bye.